Suicide Squad has leaked this week with a brand new image, and it, James, is a games as a service.
It's ugly.
It
That's
is
what it is.
ugly. I'm going to pull up this picture right now because we have a lot to talk about within this. James, when you see this image pop up, before we do this, initial thoughts. What do you think?
My mind just goes straight to, I think, Avengers.
Yeah, it's hard not to. It's hard not to think of Avengers. Yep.
I see Battle Pass in that top toolbar.
Yep.
And I think of Avengers.
I see character levels here. I see
a lot of stats. I see chapter 3, like it's very mission select based.
Which is fine. That's fine with me. I want a linear story.
Yeah.
We see different currencies on the board here. There's 5 on the top.
Jesus Christ, I forgot about that.
Or those might be skill points. Those could be skill points for each character. And then maybe an overall currency to buy cosmetic things on the left. Not sure. Anyways, this is exactly the opposite of what I wanted from a Rocksteady game. I was really hoping that we would get a linear game where I can play with each of the characters and kill the Justice League, because that sounds like a fun concept, to be honest, and it sounds a little zany, sounds fun. But this is not what I want. I don't want to grind with characters. I have no desire to do that.
Sounds like we're getting a bullet sponge game. Sounds like we're going to fight the Flash and it's going to take 20,000 bullets.
Instead of like a fun mission to like do it with cool...
With like fun mechanics and like puzzles and a dynamic boss fight.
Right, exactly.
That evolves over time.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what I want to go into for this video. Because yes, we could talk about this image. We could talk about what the Suicide Squad's been looking at like and stuff like that. But I want to pose to you a thought. I think games, I mentioned this earlier on in the podcast as well. I believe that studios are starting to, when they start a game, they're looking at what's popular right when they start that game and what will be popular. And I believe that this game is 3 to 4 years too late on releasing as a games of service for people to be excited about. I truly do not believe that people are excited right now about games of service as much as they were excited for games of a service.
Do you know, I think what was the first game to be this was our warning.
What?
Our red flag, the dead deer that is the foreshadowing of this entire trend. What? And I think it's Anthem.
Oh, Anthem hurt. Anthem was a painful thing for everybody.
Because that was the first one after the initial wave, after Destiny, after Fortnite. I feel like it was Anthem.
But just like we talked about earlier, this is a great episode, by the way. So if you haven't listened to the whole episode, you can go do that on podcast platforms or right here, become a member on YouTube. But Anthem did not hit the quality mark. Like that, straight up. Whereas Destiny hits the quality mark. The gameplay is fun.
Which is why the biggest ones are able to be successful.
Yeah, because they have, exactly.
They hit the market at the right time, at the beginning of the cycle, and they continue to develop that they continue to capitalize on their games as a service element in a way that was quality.
Right.
In a way that worked. And they committed hard to it.
And this is why Avengers didn't work, because the base was not up to spec. I think I enjoyed playing through the storyline, and the Black Panther DLC was awesome. Like, I would drop the whole game and just play that 6 hours, because that was like way better than the whole entire live service element of that game that they were trying to do. And I feel like because Avengers was just a huge flop-a-rooney, that this is a terrible thing to come out, I guess, after an Avengers world where you can play as... It's also hard because Rocksteady did one character so freaking well. Like, they did Batman, and Batman was so fun. They delivered 3 great games, and they were able to develop Batman and their moveset and like you playing Batman, but having 4 different characters split up. Do they split development on those? So it's like each of them are a little bit half-baked in their gameplay. Like, I don't know how this works, because Avengers definitely felt like that. Everything was a little half-baked with having so many spread out characters. We haven't really seen a successful game that you're able to play as so many characters and then also have like the individuality of like, this character absolutely rocks this huge move set and this whole thing. And I don't know, Avengers was half-baked, and I really want this to be a full-fledged featured Like each character is completely different, plays extremely differently, but all plays nice, plays together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just a thought. Games of service, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you write down that you don't think we'll stop seeing games as a service in the next 5 or so years.
I wrote down that we're not going to stop seeing games of services in the next few years because this game took so long to develop. Like this game was in development since probably Arkham Knight.
So you think there are games that are like still in development who are unfortunately just going to come out and die? Like that's essentially what's going to happen is they're going to come out, they're going to get initial critic scores of, it's going to hit the Metacritic of 70.
Yep.
And there's going to be no buzz besides maybe initial buzz, and they're just going to flop.
Yeah, I truly believe that. I believe that there are a lot of games in development.
Do you think after this development cycle, right, after the games as a service that are already in development, which I don't know if I could pin any others besides
Ubisoft said they canceled 7 games as a service in the last 2 years. But I don't know how far any of those were in development. Who knows? But some of them could have been just in the planning stages.
So do you think after that development cycle, do you think we're going to see any more new games as a service models?
Yes.
Try and pop up. Or do you think it's going to continue to be a trend? Like what's the scale of that for you?
I think it's trending right now. So studios are working on it. I don't think the trend goes away because I think there are plenty of successful games of service games that are pitchable in a sense of like, somebody has a new idea of a better Destiny 2, a better Final Fantasy 14. I'm talking like the biggest games of service games. A better, like Diablo 4 is going to be games as a service in a sense. It'll be very interesting to see how they do that because they're not really known for that. And I guess they have a lot of DLC and stuff, expansions, but how are they going to have that living, breathing aspect of you can jump in anytime and always have plenty of things to do? I think they will figure that out. But like, I think there are going to be games that evolve games as a service, but until we see that big step in evolution, everything to get there is not going to be enough and they will flop bad.
Right. It's going to be, you're going to have a lot of sacrificial goats before you finally get to that one.
Yeah.
So many. And I think it's just as an industry, I don't think that's healthy for developers.
No way, dude. This is going to be bad.
It shouldn't take, because I'm thinking about the studios. We talked about Halo Infinite earlier on this show. We talked about how that like inevitably became one of these sacrificial goats when for Microsoft, for that company, they needed for their portfolio, Halo Infinite to be a big hit. They needed it to be that sustained game that continually had lots of players playing.
Yeah.
And because it just didn't hit the games as a service model, again, it felt great to play. I remember when that game initially came out, everyone was like, this is the best feeling first-person shooter in years.
James, we played more Halo together than any other game. We never gamed together, but we gamed a lot of Halo.
We did game a lot of Halo, but because I don't think it was built for the games of a service model. I think it was tacked on, or it just was half baked, like you say about Suicide Squad. It's just not.
That's the part of it. I think we talked about this earlier too, is that the game has to release quality and people have to enjoy the core pieces of the game. The games of service cannot be tacked onto that. And it can't be the opposite around, which is even worse, where the game is not quality and the core is not strong, but the games of service is like, we have this huge plan for years of content, like just stick with us, because nobody's going to want to play. Both sides have to be really good. The games of service have to give a reason to stay, and the gameplay has to give a reason to stay. Both of these things have to be solid. From what I've seen for Suicide Squad, I'm not seeing either. I'm seeing the gameplay as being okay, I don't know, looks pretty arcadey, like a little Sunset Overdrive type of thing where you're whipping around the city shooting stuff.
Sure.
And then this games of service screen that I'll pull back up one more time is, it just leaves me with Avengers. Is like, why am I going to care to do all the missions? In Avengers, there is no reason to do everything. Like no reason, except maybe a cosmetic. But like the gameplay is not fun to get there. Why are we going to keep playing Suicide Squad after it comes out? We'll have to see.
We will have to see. This is all speculative. I mean,
absolutely
not all of it, but like a lot of this is speculative of how the game will actually play.
Totally.
But for now, we're skeptical.
And I would like to be wrong. Let's face it. I would love for this game to come out, score extremely high, and people, I mean, when games like this come out, even if they score high, you have to be a little skeptical about the games of service element, because like we don't know long term what they will change to that,
right,
which could affect score
or won't change.
Or won't change. But if we get a solid story, fun gameplay in the base game, and it doesn't rely on the games of service element too, I'll be happy to just play that.
I'm gonna throw something at you then that just came into my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know how you run a live service game that's just story mode.
Me neither.
I don't know.
What are they going to do with this?
What are you going to do? Are you just going to do more story missions over and over again? I don't understand how that works.
Well, James, let me tell you, we're going to introduce raids to this, in which Superman's back is Bizarro, and this time you're going to have to go through... Actually, this sounds really sick. Are you joking my ass? You're going to have to go through...
This sounds like Destiny. This is just what Destiny does.
Right, I know, because, again, we have not had a games of service game that has revolutionized the idea of what a games of service is since Destiny. And I think that's why Destiny's waning right now, is because it has so many growing pains of what they're doing, or what they did was so popular and so awesome and new and fresh that they keep doing that, which is fine. There are plenty of people that still play it and it's making money, but it's not interesting enough for me to like sink my hooks in, because it did. Right. Destiny sank its hooks in me for so long, and I'm willing to give myself up to Destiny again. But I
want to get, like, this is my main issue with the games as a service model, specifically talking about Destiny 2, is developers will introduce gameplay elements that are different.
Yeah.
Right. Like Destiny in particular, they'll say, here's a new power for you to try out. But the issue is that doesn't change the actual game itself. It changes an avenue for like a way for you to play, but it's only marginal difference. It doesn't change how boss fights work.
I have a lot to say about what you just said too, and if you want to listen to the entire podcast, you can hear the rest of our thoughts on games of service. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you want to know everything about Suicide Squad, stay right here at Strictly Casual. Go to your favorite podcast platform, type in Strictly Casual Checkpoints, little blue box, you can click it, it's a little audio. Listen, this is episode 145. Thank you guys so much for watching, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.